This is the Marathon Handbook Podcast. My name is Michael Doyle, and I am joined, as always, by my pals, Katelyn Tocci and Alex Sear. It's been a couple weeks, guys. We pre-recorded last week's episode because we've all been wandering this summer. And Mr. Sear, you're still our foreign correspondent. Where are you located right now?
I am almost in Michael's half homeland. Can we say that? Not Germany, but the neighbor.
Okay.
I'm in Vienna.
Ah, Vienna. Lovely.
I'm hanging out in Vienna. I've been here for 7 days with my parents, my sister, my fiance, my sister's boyfriend, 6 of us in a decidedly 4-person Airbnb.
Cozy.
Things are very cozy.
Nice. Yeah.
And maybe more fortunately, we didn't realize this, and I didn't realize this when we booked the Airbnb, but I'm like 2 kilometers away from the park where Eliud Kipchoge ran 1:59, Prater Park or Hop to Lee, they call it here.
Cool.
Yeah. And so my runs, like in the morning, I go down the Danube, which is like the miles long river that passes through Vienna, and 2K up the river, I can turn right into the city and I'm at that park. And so it's kind of cool. Very surreal. Yeah. And I did a threshold workout a couple days ago and went flying, and I'm telling myself that that's my new threshold pace. But also I'm just wondering if maybe Nike was onto something, and this is the fastest place in the world, and people just run fast in Vienna.
Did you run any sub 250 kilometers to steal some Strava segments from Mr. Kipchoge?
No, I did not. I did not attempt that. Though maybe I should try to just run 1K for the Strava leaderboard. Though I don't know. Is he on Strava?
No, he's not. No, I do not think he is on Strava.
I wouldn't believe so.
Yeah. So a fool's errand. I won't mess it.
So, not to turn this into the Austria travelogue podcast, but how much Mozart content are you sopping up while you're there?
Oh, so we went to, actually not so much Mozart content. We went to Mass one morning, and this is not like something that we do regularly as a family, but there is a very impressive Catholic church, St. Stephen Church in Vienna. So we're like, what the heck? We were raised Catholic, so we'll go. And the Mass here lasted about 2 hours because all of the musical numbers lasted a regular church song might last you 45 seconds to 2 minutes. For the ambitious ones, these ones lasted something like 10 to 12 minutes, and they were compositions by Schubert, the composer. And so
Was there a choir? Was there a choir?
Yes,
Oh,
a
I
like
love
80-person choir.
What?
And I also thought of you, Katelyn, because we went to this classical music performance, and there was this woman who played the cello masterfully.
Amazing. Oh, I would have loved to hear that choir. I mean, you have the famous the Vienna's Boys Choir. They put on those gorgeous sounds and the Christmas carols or church. It must have been amazing.
It was really cool. And I mean, the reason we came here to start things off was that my mom is a huge fan of Sound of Music. And so she wanted to go to Salzburg at first. And then we heard that Vienna was maybe nicer. So we're spending most of our vacation in Vienna. And then we're going to day trip to Salzburg tomorrow.
Weird. Okay, so wow, this podcast is taking a strange turn already. I feel like we could do like a breakaway lapsed Catholic pod here. Are all 3 of us? Well, I don't know. Maybe we're practicing Catholics. I don't know. I'm not. Tocci, you're Italian. You've got to be Catholic.
Yeah, I was definitely raised Catholic. Yes.
If my marriage officiant is listening, I have been going to church every week since birth. And I will keep doing this until next July.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't set foot in a Catholic church in a really long time. But we can do a side podcast where we talk about how Catholicism affected our childhoods. Okay, let's pivot out of that one.
That's for another day.
So, Alex, I was in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, the Green Mountains of Vermont, and then the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York last week, doing a lot of hiking in the mountains, doing some peak bagging with my 7-year-old and my wife. And one place that we went to was the Von Trapp Hotel Resort compound in Stowe, Vermont. These people...
What's the link? What's the link between the Von Trapps?
The Von Trapps, the people that the movie and the musical is based on, when they fled Europe, they ended up in Vermont afterwards.
Oh.
And they basically bought the side of a mountain, and they now have this gigantic compound. They've got like a resort hotel, there's a beer garden, there's multiple restaurants. So we went there, we checked it out. It was really weird.
That's weird. So our trips are kind of linked.
That's right. And so, Katelyn, were you humming That the Hills Were Alive with the Sound of Music as you finished off your 50K and won the race last week?
I'm going to say yes, so I can be part of this too. We were all doing something that had to do with the sound of music. I do often sing when I run, so I'm gonna say yes. Of course, I was humming "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of music. Yeah, so I was not. Not as exotic of trips. Well, maybe for most people, Costa Rica is very exotic, but for me, it was just about an hour from my home. I went to the peaks of Desamparados, which is a very mountainous and hilly area, and did some incredible climbs in that 50K. It was very, very fun. A lot of it was, even though it was very steep, it was runnable and fast for about the first 42K. And I was like, wow, I looked at my watch at the aid station. I'm like, I'm flying through this. I only have 8K to go. Amazing. So I go down this little downhill, not really like a dirt road, still very comfortable, and just come face first with this mud puddle, but I can't say mud puddle. I want to say like mud lake, stream. It was 8 kilometers of mud. And so I get there, I start, and I'm like, I can't even run here. So it was it was very fun in hindsight. Looking back on it, I was like, yeah, I did have fun, but I was slipping and sliding all over the place. So the time ended up getting, if anyone looks at the race from beginning to end, you're going to be like, what happened? Mud happened. I fell on my butt at least twice and had to basically hold myself up with tree branches and everything around me, like to not go down more often. I would have pushed a little harder there if I didn't have the 100-miler coming up. And this is like a practice race or like a tune-up race for the 100-miler. And I was like, I do not want to take a really bad spill. But yeah, it was super fun. I was really psyched with the outcome. So yeah, yay.
This is how I know that your racing and my racing are so different. It's like when you're like, I came face to face with, I have no idea what you're going to say. Like it could be like a jaguar, a bear, like 7 dwarves. Like I appreciate what you do. Congratulations for the race. I love listening, and I will never be in your shoes, but congrats.
I mean, the 7 dwarves are going to come at the 80th mile of the 100-miler. She's going to start hallucinating.
Yeah, I'm going to see them running around. I think the biggest obstacle other than the mud, you guys aren't even going to believe this. That's why I'm going to tell it. I'm in this path of mud trying to get through. And of course, there are motorcycle riders and 4-wheelers also deciding that this would be a really fun route for them to do at the same time. And of course, they're all stuck in the mud. They cannot advance. And so I see this group of 12 guys with their motorcycles. 2 of them are stuck about, 3-4 feet down. You can just see the handlebars coming out of that motorcycle. I don't know how they're going to get it out. And I'm just like, excuse me, can I just sneak by here? I'm in a race. Can I just pass? And so that my biggest obstacle were motorcycles and ATVs.
I suddenly feel like a kind of like a total like a baby and a complainer when I'm disappointed that I run a race and there's someone out on a bike or rollerblades or pushing a stroller or walking their dog. It's dirt bike.
Yep, dirt
3
bikes.
feet into the mud. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
But it was lots of fun. So that's what's important.
So
You're
the next time,
sure it was.
the next time, Alex, you're in a road race, say a half, and you hit that 10-mile mark and things start to get really hard, just imagine a mud lake in front of you as your next challenge. And then suddenly it'll become a lot easier.
Yeah, that's what I'll tell myself. At least I'm not running into a 4-foot lake and dirt bikes. We did a road race and one dog ran onto the course and my friend tripped on the dog.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, did he fall over?
Both fell over. He got up. It was fine. It was like, as far as obstacle dodging goes.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn there.
All right. So
what is this podcast about?
What is this about? Best guess. What are we going to...
Let's take a break. And when we come back, we will pivot hard into the one and only subject today. And that is not the sound of music. That is not the works of Mozart. And it is not about running in a mud lake. It is about how to, in the words of Alex Sear, how to find your soulmate. How to pick the perfect running shoe. We will be right back. All right. Buying the right running shoe. Seems like a simple question, but a pretty complex thing when you start thinking about it. So I guess first things first, we should define kind of what the different categories of running shoe are and whether or not those shoes work for you. Mr. Sear, you basically wear a different pair of shoes for every run, sometimes a different pair of shoes, 2 different pairs of shoes per run. What are the overall kind of basic categories of running shoe right now?
It's funny because you could have asked me this last year and I feel like my answer would have been a lot shorter, but I still will try to keep it short. You could narrow it down to 5 categories and maybe we'll get a bit nerdier later on, but surface level, here they are. Let's start with the most simple, most obvious, your daily trainer. That's the shoe that has a really big number in its name usually. The Pegasus 41, the Asics Nimbus 27, shoes that have been around for a long time. Might be the running shoes that your mom and dad were running in back in the day. They're made of EVA, really durable foam, and the point of them are to be comfortable and durable, and it's what you wear on your easy runs. Okay, that's your daily trainer. Second category, let's go with the super trainers or the workout shoes. This is the most ambiguous, and we might dig into it a little bit more, but the point of a super trainer is for it to be a little bit faster than a daily trainer, but a little bit more supportive than a racing shoe. So the result of that is usually some combination of foam that's a little bit lighter and more responsive than what you'd wear on your regular runs. Maybe a carbon plate, sometimes yes, sometimes no, and usually a whole lot of foam and support so that your legs don't hurt the next day. Third category is your super shoe, your racing shoes. Those are the fastest shoes on the market. They're usually the most expensive. They usually have a carbon plate or rods if we're talking Adidas, but usually some variation of a carbon plate. Very fast, lightweight foam, sometimes not all that durable foam, but essentially it's built for speed. Fourth category, trail running shoes, self-explanatory. They usually have a bit more tread. You wear them to challenge big mud puddles and perhaps motorcyclists and whatever you're going to see on the trail. And fifth is somewhat of an emerging category. We call them hybrid shoes, and they're shoes that could pass as trail running shoes and also road running shoes. And so they usually are made a little bit lighter than your big, luggy trail running shoes, but still have a bit of tread to them and so that you don't slip when you're going on the trails. And so it's harder to find a hybrid shoe. I think a lot of brands are just getting into that now. But those are about the 5. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out workout shoes. I think that's the most amorphous category. Anything that's fast can kind of fit into a workout shoe. I spend most of my running time in daily trainers. I still think those are the gold standard, not to race in, but to do easy runs in. So yeah, that's like kind of the overview. Those are your 5 main categories.
Nice. Super clear for everyone. Thank you, Alex.
Was it? I hope
Yeah.
so. Oh, boy.
No, it was. It was because I always have a lot of my athletes asking me about shoes. This is going to be a great pod for a lot of them, and I know you have a ton of information. But I was thinking, what is he going to say for 4 and 5? I'm glad we added trail shoes into the conversation today. Thanks, guys.
Yes, yes.
Thanks,
So
guys.
the Katelyn category.
Yes, the Alex episode turns into the Katelyn episode.
No.
So yeah, we will break down kind of when to pull trail shoes into your rotation, and also kind of what to look for in a trail shoe as well. And you could even argue that you could do the subcategories of what Alex just described with trail shoes too. You could do like your daily trainer. If you're only running on the trails, there is such thing as kind of like a daily trainer trail shoe. There are trail super shoes now. There are more sort of workout oriented or speed oriented trail shoes. And then there's trail shoes for the much longer haul, which is a category that doesn't really exist in road running shoes, although there are a couple of exceptions to that, of course. Question for you both. So, Katelyn, you ran a 50K, a lot of mud, so that I imagine means that there was some questionable terrain you knew you were getting yourself into. I want to know, each of you, Katelyn, what did you run in for your trail race this weekend? What are you running in regularly when you're going out for a run? Do you have like a road running everyday trainer in your mix? And then Mr. Sear, like a similar question, but you're our wandering editor at large here. What are you putting in the suitcase? Like, what's the go-to for you traveling to Austria?
I like that.
So, Katelyn, you go first.
Okay. So, even though I'm a trail runner, I'm only running on the trails 2 days a week, right? On the weekends for the back-to-back long run. So during the week, I do use a shoe from 2 of the 3 road running shoe categories that Alex mentioned. So I'm still going with the Saucony Ride for my easy runs. I am loving that shoe. It is so comfy. I love like the light, soft cushioning, and it's just like one of those shoes you slip on and it's really comfortable. So I use that for my easy runs. And then I love the New Balance Super Comp Trainer, which I do for workouts, because even though I'm training for a 100-miler, I still do speed work and still do fast stuff. So I will use that. And also I kind of switch that up with the Saucony Endorphins. I've been using that as well. But for trail this weekend, it was a tricky one. I don't think any shoe works in a mud lake. So I had to choose. Guys, there was no way, because if you saw the shoes, it was just like they were a complete, you couldn't see the shoes. So nothing would have worked, because the way that this particular type of mud stuck in, because we can get into that later. I do use different kinds of shoes depending on the different trail race that I'm running. But this was a 50K, so I wanted a little bit of cushioning. So I'll train in some North Face Alta Mesa 300s. And for this race, I just ran in the North Face Alta Mesa 500s, which have a little bit more cushioning, and they're kind of a little bit more for the long haul. So I'll probably use those also in the 100-miler. And they have some grip, but they're not extremely grippy. So like I had said, 40 something kilometers of that race was gravel road. So I didn't need something that was going to be single track trail, because that was only the last 8 kilometers of the race. And I thought, well, that kind of mud I've heard about, nothing's going to work anyway, unless a brand can prove me wrong. But I used, I'm using North Face a lot now for all of my trail running. It's been going really, really well. So I would say the Alta Mesa 500s are awesome for some long distance trails at this point. That's what's in my shoe rotation for now.
Oh, okay. I went completely brand agnostic here. Only brought.
Okay.
Well, I did bring 3 pairs of running shoes, and one of them I've been using as casuals forever. The Tracksmith Elliott Runner. I love how they look, and
they're sharp.
They feel good to walk around. To be honest, I haven't run as much in them as I thought I would. I didn't like them as much as I thought that I would. Like, I ran in them to review them, and then most shoes that I like, I just keep in my my rotation. But these ones not so much, but I made them my walking shoes. And so I'm walking around Vienna in those. My running, I do all my easy runs. I'm in base season right now, so a lot of my miles are kind of easy, relaxed miles, and I do them in the Nike Vomero 18. So
Oh,
Michael's
does
too.
she really?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
it took me a
Alex.
while.
Welcome to the dark side. Yes.
Yeah, they're great. Like, it took me a while to completely warm up to them. The more I wore them, the more I liked them, and yeah, I really don't regret the choice. For my threshold workouts, I brought it's actually a 2024 shoe that I loved, and I'm getting pressure from Alexis to clean the locker and the closet.
Uh-oh.
And I just can't throw these shoes out, so I figured I'd have to wear them out, and they're on their last legs. Asics Magic Speed 4s. So that's like kind of your proper super trainer. They're lightweight, they have a carbon plate. Not necessarily made for races, more so made for fast workouts, and this is the swan song for them. I'll have one more workout in them, and then I'll have used them to the end.
Oh, so you're going to leave them there. I do that when I travel as well. I bring like the shoes that are on the last leg, so I use them and then I just leave them.
Yeah, we went to the Vienna underground catacombs today, and I asked them if I could leave my Magic Speeds there, and didn't really know what I was talking about, so I said no, and so I'm going to have to just leave them in the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the sort of pro tips 1 and 2 when you're traveling is either bring a pair of shoes that you're fine with sacrificing and leaving behind. If you want to replace items in your suitcase with, souvenirs you're bringing back from your trip, or the flip, which would be if you know for sure that there is a, whatever brand you like to buy from, a store that carries the shoe you like to run in that city, just don't bring any shoes. Travel there and buy a pair of shoes when you're there.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Which can be risky, but if they don't have your size or the shoe you're looking for. Okay, so basic criteria in the great running shoe quest to find that perfect shoe for you. Let's go through this. Alex, foot shape and arch type, which surface you're running on, how much you're running, and then I think maybe the fourth category would be like what you have to ask yourself what your personal goals are. Does that sound like the 4 criteria that make the most sense for how you go about buying a running shoe that fits for you?
That sounds right. The one thing I'll expand on is the first, like, foot shape and arch type. And I'm answering this as an answer to the question that a lot of people ask me, like, often, especially beginners. They think that there's like a special formula to buy a shoe. Like, for example, oh, like you have this type of foot, and so therefore you will fit well in a Hoka or whatever. And as far as I know, that doesn't really exist. I think people think that there's a chart that's much more systematic than what we're going to talk about. There are guidelines. We'll take you through the guidelines, but the like foot shape, foot type, sometimes you have to go to a running store to figure that out. Like, I'll have people say, I've heard of On, I've heard of Brooks, I've heard of insert shoe brand here. Which one's going to be good for me? And I'll say, look, all brands make, all of these well-known brands make quite good shoes these days. You have to go to a store and put them on. And sometimes you just don't jive with a certain brand, but you need to put them on. A running store that has a treadmill for you to test things out is pure gold. That's what I'll say. So like foot shape, arch type, as far as like pronation and supination goes, you should have a good grasp on that. Like, you should know if you're an excessive pronator and if stability shoes might be a right call for you. After that, yes, running surface. Are you going to be a road person or a trail person? Very important. Are you going to do cross country in them? Maybe, maybe not. How much do you want to run? It's very huge. And personal goals. Yeah. I mean, do you want to run for fun? Do you want your shoes to last you a long time? Like, do you plan to just go for an easy 5K every couple of days, or do you have speed goals? And then as soon as you introduce that, well, then your hunt looks a lot different.
Alex, could you mention to everyone, could you just maybe differentiate between if you're pronating too much or supinating too much, so some of the listeners who maybe don't know what that means can get an idea?
Yeah, so pronation is a fancy word for your foot rotating inwards a bit too much when you're running. I think most people pronate a little bit while running. That's kind of common. But if you're an over-pronator, your foot rolls inward so much that it may cause you some problems and injuries. And supination is the opposite. Your foot rolls outwards. Now, brands make shoes for people with those issues. They call them stability shoes. So I have Asics in my mind, so I'll just put the Asics plug in there. Asics has a really good daily trainer called the Nimbus. The Nimbus is a neutral shoe. Maybe you're running in the Nimbus, you're still pronating, or your supinating is not working for you. Well, then you can get something that feels like the Nimbus, but has a little bit more stability to it. That's called the Kayano. Most brands have those stability shoe equivalents to their daily trainers. And one last thing, how to find out whether or not you're a pronator or a supinator. It's very hard for you to tell yourself, and even a shoe store, someone at a shoe store might not be able to tell you. Best thing to do, especially if you're already encountering injuries, go see a physiotherapist about it, or even a general practitioner who can see. I actually had some pronation issues back in the day, did a lot of exercise for it, fixed a lot of it, but the person who helped diagnose me was a physiotherapist.
I read kind of I guess this is not a surprising stat, but it's a very telling stat that is perhaps one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast today, which is that, so the industry group Running USA, they collect a lot of data, and they did a survey last year. So this is 2024 data, fresh data. 68% of new runners say they bought their first pair of shoes without any advice whatsoever. They just went out and bought a pair of shoes, which, and then 57% of them reported feeling pain or injury within the first 3 months after they started running in them. So, and I think in some cases that might just be the learning curve and the growing pains of being a new runner, of getting your body kind of like used to running regularly. But in some cases, it's definitely because you probably picked the wrong pair of shoes.
And I think a lot of people go into the store, and if you're not acquainted with how much you need to know about running shoes, you go in and you pick the pretty ones. So and we've all been there. Or what?
Or you're 100% right. Or the cheaper ones.
Yes.
And I understand that running shoes have become more expensive in the last few years, and sometimes spending, whether that's like $180 American on a pair of running shoes seems unfathomable. I get it, but oftentimes it's worth it. We're not getting paid by a shoe brand to say this. This is just kind of how it is. Like, most companies will make shoes that are cheaper and that are not as good and that are not made to support you. People will not bite the bullet, get something cheaper, and then regret it. So like this is a piece of advice I wanted to like stick at some point in the podcast, and that's like if you have to spend an extra $50 to make sure that you get good daily trainers, do it. It will be worth it.
Good investment.
Yeah, I would say that if you're going to buy running shoes in a brick and mortar shop, one pro tip would be go to a run specialty store. Go to a store that is entirely focused on running, not a general sporting goods store. Problem with the general sporting goods store is going to be you go to the big gigantic shoe wall, and you might be tempted, if you're a more frugal shopper, you might be tempted towards something that is more of what you would call like a gym shoe or a workout shoe than an actual dedicated running shoe. And while you might be able to get away with running in it like once or twice a week, it's not going to last nearly as long as a dedicated running shoe. And also, it's not really designed for that, right? It's the difference between, I think about like Nike makes something called, I think it's called the Windflow, and then they also make the Pegasus. The Pegasus is the one that's designed for running in often and specifically for running. I think the Windflow is more sort of general purpose fitness shoe, right? So
it's probably on the harder side, right? Like more for gym stuff and running occasionally.
Yeah, and it's not using any of the technologies and the learnings of years and years that this company has spent making high quality, forward thinking running shoes. So, what's the first pair of shoes you guys ever bought? Running specific that you can remember.
Oh, first pair of shoes I ever bought were the New Balance 880V, an embarrassingly low number even to me.
Try me, Sear. Come on. We're recording this on Alex's 30th birthday. So
I'm feeling quite insecure. It was a New Balance pair. I remember just having them for like gym class and really liking New Balance. And in grade 10, I think I started training properly. I was like, well, I need a good pair of running shoes. I've always liked New Balance, and they happened to be the 880s. And I stayed with New Balance for many years after that. Always been a fan of their 880s, and then eventually their Zonte lines. That was the first shoe that I bought on a regular, recurring basis. It was like not that cushioned, but very fast for a daily trainer, and I liked that, and the colors were cool.
I wish I had that elaborate of a story to talk about my first shoe, but when I ran the Boston Marathon for the first time before being a runner, remember, guys, that fun story? So
Yes.
a family friend of ours who was the runner who helped me get ready for the Boston Marathon brought me to Marathon Sports, of course. And we went to Marathon Sports, and he guided me towards, and I think it was Key Brooks. And I can't even tell you what the model was. I'm assuming, because it was like a very nice soft trim, I'm assuming it was along the lines of a glycerin, because it was a nice, cushy, comfy shoe. And he was very knowledgeable about running and had been running his entire life. So I'm sure he was like, get her the very safe, extremely comfortable, awesome Brooks shoe. And it was all white. You know, because all those years ago, there were not that many very cool colorways, guys. And it was like white and maybe like a little bit of gray. That's what I remember about it. But it was like an all white shoe. And yeah, that was my first running shoe. And then I went through a lot of years without running shoes, and then up until recently. But what was yours, Michael?
Michael wore a nice pair of clogs.
Of course.
40 years
Back
ago.
in my day, we didn't have our shoes were made out of kangaroo leather.
You walked barefoot to work.
That's right.
At school.
Patent leather. Yes, I was just doing a little quick Google image searching to try to figure out what edition it was. So we just got in for testing a couple of different Mizuno shoes, and we got the Wave Rider 29. And I was like, oh yeah, the Wave Rider, my old friend. I often joke that the Wave Rider was like the stealth first super shoe, in that it had a plate in it. 20 years before it was cool to put a plate in a shoe, but the plate was just like a plastic plate and it just made it heavier. But the Wave Rider still has a little thin plastic plate, but it's so much more soft and cushy than it was back in the day. I think it was Wave Rider 8 or 9, I think, was my first probably my first really serious running shoe in my mid-20s. I had run a bit before that. I mean, I ran in grade school and high school, but I don't even remember what those shoes were, and I didn't probably buy those shoes for myself. My parents probably helped me with those. But the first shoes that I remember going to a running shoe store and buying a pair of shoes was the Mizuno Wave Rider, a very early edition. I am just looking at a picture of the Wave Rider 9 right now, and it looks like some sort of Gen Z fashion shoe now. I feel super old looking at it, because it, I guess, could be. But yeah, the Wave Rider, the early Wave Rider, which by all accounts still a decent shoe. I'm looking forward to wearing the Wave Rider 29, testing them out. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we get back from the break, we will sketch out basically like a flow chart for you to follow for kind of how to buy a shoe. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Let's talk about what we're going to call the shoe flow chart here. Okay, so this requires a little bit of imagination if you're listening on the audio version of this podcast. We do a video version as well. If you don't already watch us, we're on YouTube and Spotify as well. But basically, this is just like a if this then that type scenario for how to buy a running shoe. So I'll start it off. I think if you're brand new to running, Alex, the most obvious shoe to buy would be just like a daily trainer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a daily trainer. And not to plug myself, that's not a cool thing to do, but we do these exactly for this. We do our roundups of my favorite daily trainer. And yes, there's some subjectivity to that, obviously, but the daily trainers that make it onto that list, I will say, are among the very best in the world, if not the very best in the world. There is a select group of running brands you've probably all heard of who have pretty much mastered the art of making good daily trainers. Nike, Brooks, On, Hoka, Saucony, New Balance, Adidas. The list kind of goes on to a group of 10, 12 X brands. And it's not that hard to find. And yes, I think if you want to buy one shoe, you just want to get into running, that is step one. That is the go mark on the Monopoly board. Get a daily trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that if you're running like 1 to 3 times a week, just a daily trainer, it's all you need. You probably only need the one pair of shoes. You could get 2 pairs. It's nice to rotate back and forth between 2 pairs of shoes. Actually, there's been a bit of research done on this where you are significantly lowering your chance of injury by having 2 different shoes in your rotation. And why that is, you could use a little bit of common sense regarding that, but there's some question as to why that is. But like, I think overall it's good to have a little bit of balance and maybe have more than 1 pair of shoes. But if you're only going to do 1 pair of shoes, daily trainer. And then you got to figure out kind of like, this is the Goldilocks factor, right? Of like, do you like a super soft, super cushioning shoe, like a max cushioning shoe? Or do you like a firmer shoe? Like I would describe like the Nike Pegasus as a firmer, more responsive shoe. Whereas the shoe you mentioned before, Alex, the Vomero 18, it's a softer, more max cushioning shoe. In that case, you got to figure that out, and that sometimes takes a little bit of time to figure out. What are you guys, Katelyn? Are you all about that plush, cushiony ride, or
I am
or
now.
do you like that tactile, firm thing?
I used to run in a lot of, I don't want to say minimalist shoes because I wasn't doing barefoot running type, but I really did wear a lot of less cushioning shoes. And now I'm all about the cushioning. So I don't know if it's because I need more cushioning now. I need something to help break that impact a little bit. You know what I mean, Michael? You know,
Our old feet, yes, or tired,
yes.
weary bones. Yeah.
I've changed over the past couple of years, and I do, when I'm going on my easy runs and I'm going on my long runs, I like to be really comfortable, and maybe I'll switch that up a little bit for speed, which we'll talk about later. But but I definitely like a cushion shoe on my easy run days. Like for my daily trainer, cushion, 100%.
Yeah, I think part of it is just, if you're coming to running now, if you're newer to running, listening to this or watching this, you've come at a really great time because the technology's gotten so good in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years with running shoes, and the foams have become really, really intelligently made, right? And really tuned specifically. Where I find now I can wear a more of a max cushioning shoe because they're actually light enough that they don't feel like boats when you're wearing them. Whereas I'd say 10 years ago, a bigger, thicker, chunkier shoe really felt too heavy for me. I think Hoka really kind of changed that several years ago with the Clifton, bringing in like a pretty light shoe that also had a big stack of foam and was really cushiony as well. And then all the other brands have kind of had to figure out how to compete with that, right? So, which has been a good thing for everybody. Okay, so in the flow chart, say you're like, no, I run more than that. So you run, say, more than 3 times a week. Then you're looking at kind of like in the flow chart here, visualize this with us. Then you're going into like, you're going into 2 streams. You should then consider, yes, that everyday trainer. Then you're probably, if you're running 3 or more times a week, you're thinking about doing 1 workout a week and maybe even a long run, which we'll get into in a second. But so if you're doing that workout in a week, you still can definitely wear a daily trainer. I do a lot of my workouts in that Vomero 18 you mentioned, Alex, because it's just light enough and powerful enough that it feels pretty good if you're running like lactate threshold pace. But if I'm doing VO2 max work, if I'm running like more like 5K speed, doing track workouts, things like that, I'm starting to think about the super trainer or like a faster workout shoe? Like, what are some examples of some decent workout shoes?
So I even would wear these for threshold workouts to teach their own, but as soon as I get into workouts, I like something that's a little bit faster. A shoe that I've really been enjoying lately has been, we're again in the New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel V5, which is not a carbon plated shoe. So it doesn't make you feel like you have to be on your toes. It's not a super aggressive shoe, but it does have a slightly better foam than a regular daily training foam. And also the shoe overall is light, so you feel fast in them. They're similar to the Adidas Evo SLs, which are kind of made in the same way, not full of carbon with a huge rock forward profile, just light and quick. And I tend to like shoes like that for a workout. And they make you feel good. You know, they make you feel a little bit confident. They might make you change your stride a little bit because chances are if you're running a little bit faster, you're probably less likely to be on your heel and midfoot and more so on your midfoot and forefoot, which might be what you end up doing if you're eventually racing a 5K or a 10K or even a marathon. And so I like that rotation. The other way that you can go if you're looking for a slightly faster shoe than a daily trainer, but you're a bit hesitant about getting a shoe that's light and small and fast, is you can go the big super trainer way, which is the shoe that will probably have a carbon plate, will have a whole lot of foam, but will be so powerful that even if it's heavy, it's still kind of fast. There are some shoes that are like that I tend to really like. The one that I have taken bullets for has been the Nike Pegasus Premium, which I really love. It's a heavy shoe. I'm getting a lot of people disagreeing on YouTube saying they don't like them. Also, a lot of people who are like, yes, this is my shoe. And so that one's kind of, you like it or you don't. Maybe one that's a little bit safer in the realm of super trainers is the Brooks Glycerin Max and also the Asics Super Blast 2. Those shoes everyone tends to like. It's, I think, because they're a little bit less hard, but they're every bit as bouncy. They're still a little bit heavy, but they give you that support while giving you some speed on a run that's a little bit faster than an easy run. So if you're into like light and fast, you can look at the Rebel, you can look at the Evo SL. If you're into something that's bigger and cushioned but still quick, Super Blast 2 is awesome by Asics. Glycerin Max is awesome. And hey, if you want to try the Nike Pegasus Premium, I'm vouching for it. So see if you're brave.
Nice.
Yeah, like the workout shoes are fun because they are incorporating some of that bleeding edge technology without being like crazy expensive and crazy volatile in terms of durability or lack thereof, right? Like they still have a little bit of toughness to them and they'll last you more than a couple of 100 kilometers, maybe. But they also got pop to them. And some of them will have a carbon plate. Some of them will have a nylon plate. Some of them won't have a plate at all, but they've got a bit of that supercritical foam, like you mentioned with the Rebel V5, which is a really cool shoe, right? So that's sort of like, that's the second tranche to go down. And then I'd say the third one is if you're beyond the 3+ a week running and you're now thinking, you know, dedicated marathon training block, you know, very experienced, focused runner, or you're someone like Alex who's training really hard for a pretty quick half marathon, then you're getting into having the full quiver, for a road runner, which is daily trainer, maybe more than one daily trainer. Maybe you got a couple in the rotation. And you're offsetting maybe. Like, I don't know if you guys do this, but like I'll run in a shoe for a few weeks, a month, and then I'll add a second shoe in and kind of have them offset. So like one day I'm running in kind of a little bit of a more worn in pair of daily trainers. Then my next easy run day, I'll be running in a fresher pair. So they'll sort of offset a little bit. I've got them kind of staggered. And then you've got your super trainer or your workout shoe, your faster shoe for that fast workout midweek. Maybe you use it for a long run, or maybe you use your daily trainer for a long run. But then you also have the third category, which is a super shoe. Then you're rolling in this is the to use the car which we use from time to time. It's your Formula One shoe. This is not for running in often. It's for special occasions, for going after PRs. It's for running a goal race. They're not going to last very long. Bleeding edge technology, carbon plate. Jury's out on whether or not they're actually really good for your feet long term. Some studies argue they stave off injury because of that supercritical foam and the design of them. But then other studies point to the fact that like they're making you do weird things with your feet. That's fine for one race, but not so fine if you don't want to run in these things every day, right? There's entire Instagram feeds dedicated to like seeing people wearing super shoes like out in the wild not running, which is super weird.
And then other Instagram showing the very few runners finishing in the top half of marathons not wearing super shoes because that's become so rare.
That's right. The guy that we mentioned several podcasts ago who was the top Boston Marathon runner finisher, but he was rocking a pair of Topo everyday trainers, but he came in like 1,000th place. So there's like 1,000 people before him who were all wearing super shoes, right? Which just goes to show the prominence of the super shoe. What's the go-to super shoe right now? Sear, we just did we power ranked the current super shoes available on the market right now. It's on our Instagram. It's pinned at the top, so it's easy for you to find. Just a bit of a nebulous ranking system because it's not so much about like what the best shoes are in order, but kind of like if you're thinking about like how you rank sports teams mid-season, like where who's trending upwards, who's trending downwards, that sort of thing. But what's your like number one super shoe right now? Give me like number one overall, and then give me one that's like easier to acquire because some of these shoes are impossibly hard to find.
Okay. Number one overall to me is still the Puma Fast R Nitro Elite 3, which I ran my 10K personal best in. Still hard to get, not impossible to get. Puma's done a few drops this year, including one at the Boston Marathon, but I have heard of a lot of people who are trying to get the shoe and they can't. And so depending on where you are in the world, that might be difficult for you. I'd say the best shoe drop that's happened recently and that I think has become where the shoe has become quite available is the Asics Metaspeed Tokyo series, the Metaspeed Edge and the Metaspeed Sky. They're not a huge update from the previous Asics Metaspeed racing shoe, super shoe that came out last year, but the foam is better and they're very fast. And I think I find them comfortable. So far, they have a pretty high enjoyment and acceptance rate from the runners that I've spoken with. I think that's probably been the key drop of the summer. And I'll also throw a shout out to the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 because we don't talk about that shoe enough. It's a very dangerously fast super shoe, and it doesn't get the credit that it deserves.
I just did a quick check, and the Metaspeed Sky Tokyo and Edge Tokyo, there's still a bunch of sizes available on ASIC's site in the US. So it's still a shoe that's available because there's a problem with these shoes is they sell out really fast, right? They don't make nearly as many super shoes as they do daily trainers. They don't make nearly as many ASICs. We say Nimbus or Nimbi?
Nimbi.
Nimbi, plural for Nimbus. They don't make nearly as many Metaspeeds as they do Nimbi. Katelyn, what's your go-to super shoe? What will you wear? I know you're doing 100 miler, so that's a different. We'll talk about trail shoes in a minute here, but like, what are you interested in running your next road race when you come back to when you come back to us, Katelyn? When you come back home to the
Alex
road.
about this. I spoke with Alex about this the other day, and actually I want his input because I want to do something a little more aggressive. I want a bit more of an aggressive shoe because I've been running in the Vaporflies. For those of you who have listened before, that know that I run in the Vaporflies, and they're a great shoe. I've loved running in them, but I want something that's a little more aggressive. And so whether it's an alpha fly that's, pushing me forward and toppling me over, I want to try something that level aggressive that the next time I come back into the marathon game. So whenever that is, if it's sometime next year, I'd like Alex to give me his top couple there and at that time, so then I can say, okay, let's do it. I want to fall over. I want it to push me onto the ground.
Yeah, well, okay. You just pushed me all the way into nerd corner. So
Nice.
Indulge me for 30 seconds. Brands are doing this thing now where they're cleaving their super shoe offering. A lot of them, including Nike, that's what reminded me of it, have like 2 super shoes on the market. One that's kind of like the Vaporfly, that is fast, but light and somewhat shaped like shoes of the past without all the bells and whistles, and meant to be kind of like the every runner's super shoe. And then they have Big Papa, the Alpha Fly. Other brands have the same. A lot more foam. They're shaped weirdly. They kind of look like spaceships, but they're more responsive and they're more powerful. And if your goal is speed, they're typically your better quote unquote super shoe.
I want a
And
spaceship.
so you want it? Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I've talked to some people who are in your position who got like a slightly more conservative type of super shoe, and now say, I want it all, man. Give me the big poppy, give me the big speed, and fair enough.
I think Nike should, the Alpha Fly 4 should just be called the Alpha Fly Big Papa. That's an interesting
reminding
naming
me
convention.
reminding me of David Ortiz from the Boston Red Sox, right?
Yeah, I was
Big
going to say,
Papi. Yeah, that's
this
what I
is
was
a brand
thinking.
partnership waiting to happen. Have
Yeah.
David Ortiz on the line of the Boston Marathon, see what happens.
He just likes to hit home runs, guys. He just likes to hit home runs. Yeah, totally. I think that there's definitely now kind of 2 tiers of super shoe. I think that's the big trend of the last year. Not every brand is doing it, but quite a few are. In particular, the brands that are, I think, doing the most R&D with super shoes. So as you said, yeah, the Vaporfly 4 and the Alpha Fly are different categories of shoe. Maybe if you're looking for like max bang for your buck in terms of like, you're more of a middle of the pack runner and perhaps your PR days are behind you, and you want to just get more out of your super shoe. Maybe something like the Vaporfly 4 is a better fit. They feel better on your foot. They're designed, I think, a little bit more for comfort. The Nike says they're more durable, and I believe them because I've worn them quite a bit, and they do seem quite a bit more durable than the Vaporfly 3, and certainly more durable than the foam and the Alpha Fly. But if you were looking for like, yeah, Katelyn, if you're going for broke, there's no tomorrow. There is only one race, and it is the race in front of you. You want the rocket ships, right? And you want to get Alpha Fly. You want to get Meta Speed Ray by Asics, which just came out. Super bleeding edge shoe, lightest shoe on the market right now, unfathomably light. We've held them in our hands. Alex, have you run in them yet? Have you done any running in them?
Yeah, I have. They're wild. They're crazy. Yeah. More to come. More to come on those.
More to come. Yeah. To be continued. You have to follow.
You have to wait for the
follow
review.
our YouTube channel, and you'll get to see a review soon. What else? On makes that crazy robot shoe, the Light Strike LS, which is impossibly hard to find.
I'm still waiting.
But it's out there. Yes, I know. It's the glass slipper. Katelyn was at the ball. She tried them on.
I tried them
and
on.
I
had a promise.
The clock struck midnight. And,
and I turned into a pumpkin.
and you turned back into a pumpkin, which was weird. Yeah, there are these, obviously the Adidas Pro Evo shoes, extremely hard to find, bleeding edge tech, but they fall apart very quickly. So there's that. There's those 2 subcategories, I guess you could say, of the super shoe as well.
Yeah. And I need to go into nerd corner once more. This is for the hardcores who want to know. I'll be real quick about this. There's something happening in the world of super shoes with the foam. There's a new foam that's somewhat sweeping the running start lines, not so quietly. It's called ATPU foam. And from what I understand, and from my own little bit of research with our shoe engineers at several brands actually at this point, most companies are working with these foams to put them in shoes. They are very light. They are very fast. That's the foam that is in the Puma Faster Nitro Elite 3, the Evos, the Adidas Evos that Michael mentioned, and also the Asics Metaspeed Race. The issue with this foam that most brands are still having is to make it durable. So if you remember the Asics Pro Evos, the problem with them was that they barely last 50 kilometers and then the bounce is gone. That is somewhat inherent to most of these ATPU foams right now. So it seems like the next big wave of innovation should be brands finding out how to put those in a shoe and making those foams a bit more durable because they are incredibly light. So I think that's the next thing that we're going to see.
And another pro tip for listeners and viewers wanting to buy, I mean, really any of these shoes, because the same goes for everyday trainers as well, is it just like any other piece of technology, just like your phone or a laptop or an iPad, these brands have release schedules and they plan them well in advance. We get the opportunity every year. We get a couple of cracks throughout each year to see future products well in advance. We go to this really neat kind of insider event called the Running Event in December every year, where we get to see the next year's entire lineup, and then sometimes the year after that as well, which is heavily embargoed, so we can't talk about it for the longest time. But we share all that information that we have, and we have all this sort of swirling around in our head when we're talking about shoes as well, is that we've seen all of this stuff and we've spoken to the product engineers about it at length. And there are release schedules, and we should do this. We should put out the release schedule that we know of on our site so that, there's nothing worse than buying an iPhone and then like 2 weeks later, you realize there's like some Apple event that's being streamed online and it's like the iPhone 17 is now out. And you're like, come on, I just bought the iPhone 16. It's garbage
who's
now.
On page? Is that Tim Cook?
No! Yeah, exactly.
It happens with the watches too. Garmin comes, you're like, oh, I got this really great deal. Yeah, you probably got a great deal because you're going to release the brand new watch.
Yep.
One thing we can share, I mean, this is an episode about shoes, but one thing we can share that we've learned in the last few months about watches that I thought was really fascinating is apparently watch companies, unlike shoe companies that have a schedule that they kind of let people like us know about, like we know more or less when the new Alpha Fly is going to come out. It's going to come out. We're going to see a prototype of it on someone's feet in Chicago because that's a Nike race. So in October, we're going to see it. And then it will be released probably in the springtime following that. Although it's been 2 years since the Alpha Fly 3 at this point, almost 2 years since it was in the wild in October of 2023. Other shoes have a more sort of like rigid release, annual release churn. Often, like with cars and with iPhones, certain releases are more exciting. Certain new editions are more exciting than others, right? Like often you'll just get like a little colorway update, or they'll say like, we've spruced up the foam, or we've made the upper a little more comfortable or more durable or whatever. But usually they're very minor incremental changes. And then every like maybe 5 years, you'll get like a total refresh, right? All this to say, you should pay attention to the release dates so that you're not disappointed if you go full price on a pair of shoes and then a month later you happen to be in the running store or scrolling Instagram and you're like, what? Like the new version of the Pegasus 42 just came out. I can't believe it. It looks so much nicer than the Pegasus 41.
But that's also a really good way to save some money, though. If you don't really need to have the new one, then what you do is you just go in, and when the new shoe is going to come out, you know that the previous model, and if you've loved it, the previous model is going to go on sale, and so it's a really good time to buy. So if you are trying to save a little money, that's actually, you can do the opposite.
Yeah, rough rule, the bigger the number inside of the name, the less the update tends to matter. There are exceptions. Sometimes brands will completely overhaul a shoe. That will happen, but keep that as a general rule of thumb. The Asics Nimbus 27, I love. The Asics Nimbus 26, I also love. It's almost the same shoe.
I was waiting for like a moment. You're like,
Yeah, me too.
26. I hated it. Oh, and in all my rambling, what I meant to say about the watches, we're not going to talk about watches today, is watch companies operate a little differently. They actually don't give you a heads up on updates and new releases for security reasons. They have to deal with something very different than shoe companies, where they have to deal with like
Hacking.
Yeah. So they are actually pretty closed door on when the new watch is coming out. So until it just drops. So, okay. Let's talk for a second here. Let's quickly pivot into turning this into a Katelyn episode for a second, and a Michael episode to a certain degree as well. I wander onto the trails from time to time.
Oh, yeah. I've got a bunch of different things we can talk about with trail shoes for sure.
The last sort of avenue of the flow chart here is, what surface are you running on? And I think it's a question I ask myself, and this is perhaps more like either a veteran runner who's doing more and more trail running, or somebody who lives in a rural area or lives by a great network of trails and wants to run on them semi-regularly or regularly. It's like, when do you buy a trail shoe? How often do you use it? And what trail shoe do you buy? I guess would be the next sort of like, if this then that questions, Katelyn. When do you think a runner should start considering buying a trail shoe? Like, how often should they be running in? I mean, I guess like if you run on a trail once, you can buy a trail shoe, but like for practical sake.
I think it is important that if you want to bring trail running into your training, you should get a trail shoe, just because it's going to be more comfortable. And at the end of the day, you're going to be safer depending on the terrain, right? Because even if it gets a little slippery or a little tricky, you're going to want to have more grip than your normal day-to-day road running shoe is going to have. And to be honest, if you're a recreational trail runner and not training on the trails every day, I mean, even I train on the road 5 days a week, 5 days a week and train on, or 4 days a week and train trails 2 days a week. And so I think that even if you're running a lot and you're dedicating yourself to trail running, you'll probably only run once or twice a week, unless you live in the mountains and you're able to get there for your easy runs throughout the week. So I would say, make sure, you do get a trail shoe just so you're safer. And that's going to have a lot to do with the terrain, which was something that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because as I joked so much about the mud, you really want to focus on what kind of trails will you be running so you get the correct shoe for those trails. And I know that this just complicates it a little bit more. But if you're running a lot on just gravel roads, and I mean, I've run some beautifully groomed trails in the States when I go up and visit my dad. And those trails are very comfortable. They're not very technical. So you can think about something that maybe that has some traction, but not a ton of traction. Like if you're in my mud lake, you want to find something with a little bit more traction. So I would say, I can do a comparison with the shoes I'm currently running in. So something that has a little bit less traction, but is an amazing shoe, are the Alta Mesas, right? The 300 or the 500s, North Face. Now, if I stick with North Face, I would say, okay, if I'm going to run a little bit more technical trail, maybe I don't want my shoe to be as soft, and I want to have a little bit more grip, and I want a little bit more lugs, I would go with the North Face Vective Endurus 4. If I have those, I think those are the most recent ones, which I have right now. And they still have a little bit of cushioning, but they're not super soft. So you can really feel the ground beneath you, which is great for technical trail. When you're running a lot of gravel roads, you just kind of want to go, and the shoe can be nice and soft. You can kind of pound the downhills and not worry about it. But when you need a little bit of grip, and you can really see those lugs on those Vective Endurus 4. So you're going to have a lot more grip than you will with the Alta Mesas. Okay. And so I think about the terrain that you're going to run on to make that decision as well. And another thing is, are you going to be running, if you're thinking about racing, long races or short races? If you're getting into the ultra world, you're going to want something with a lot more cushioning. If you're going to be doing some short 10, 15, 20K trail races that are nice and technical and fast, you might want something a little lower to the ground, not so much cushioning, where you have a lot of control. So when I think about maybe a shoe as, that you can use that's a little lower to the ground, I would go with like the Sportiva Bushidos. Like they're light, they're fast, they have great traction, and they don't have a lot of cushioning. So you can really feel that ground beneath you. And in a short, fast race, I like that. So there we go in the trail world of like the trail running shoe rotation, if you're really into it. But if not, just get something that's going to go with your day-to-day runs. And Michael, I think we should get into also, we should mention the hybrid shoes that you mentioned for those road to trail people as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of this like emerging category or subcategory, or I guess hybrid category, as you said, the gravel shoe, which
Yep.
if you do any cycling at all, the term gravel is much more familiar to you than for runners, where like the gravel bike thing is this phenomenon that's happened in the last 10 years for sure, certainly post-COVID, of like these bikes that are kind of like cyclocross bikes were back in the day, and a road bike mixed together, where it's like you can ride in the roads and it's pretty responsive and performative, and you don't feel like the lugs on the tires or the width of the tires are holding you back speed wise that much. But then when you hit like, the gravel path, the rail trail, even something a little more technical, you're not all over the place. Whereas if you were on a pure road bike, you just wouldn't be able to do it. You just wouldn't be able to go there. So I think the gravel shoe is trying to take that same concept and port it over to running, where it's like a little less luggy, but there's a little grip there. So it's not going to feel like you're driving a pair of snow tires on the road. You're just kind of like, there's got a little bit of fleetness underfoot. But they're also structured a little bit better. So they're a little tougher. They can handle the dirt and the mud a little bit. And you're not going to go like sliding down the side of a hill when you go down a dry trail, right? A wet trail or a much more rooty technical trail, you might have more of a tough time, right? So,
yeah, it's nice to have that. And I know that I think you do as well, Michael, but when I'm running throughout the week, sometimes I'll choose routes. I do have some trail close to the roads. And so it's funny, a shoe that is a hybrid between road and trail is helpful to me personally because I do go back and forth. And so recently, just to mention a couple, I have used the Brooks Divide. And that's funny because this is kind of a newer thing. We're seeing more brands pop up with these hybrid shoes, but the Brooks Divide has been around for a long time. I ran Black Canyon in them, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And those are great. They are a little grippy. They're nice light shoes and you can just move easily from road to trail. And I recently tried the Merrell Pro Morph hybrids, which are new and they're fantastic as well. Like you just really feel that you can get from the road, and then they have that little bit of grip where I don't feel like I'm going to slip if something's wet, or as you said, a little too dry. A bunch of like a very dusty road is something that you could slip on if it's a nice downhill. So they have just enough grip to help you with that, but you don't feel like you're running on lugs on the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, other brands that make like a gravel specific shoe. Solomon actually has like a whole subcategory. Mount to Coast has a gravel shoe coming out as well. Sort of an upstart brand, really interesting brand, very beautiful shoes. They've got a gravel shoe coming out soon. I think we got one coming or have one to test. And one that I've worn quite a bit actually is, so Nike makes the Pegasus Trail, and that is basically like taking a Nike Pegasus road shoe, a neutral everyday trainer, putting a little bit more laminate around the toes so you don't tear through the toes when you're on the trail, which is something that does happen more often. A little bit, and there's a bit of a lug under the foot, but you can still run on the road with them for a couple kilometers or miles. It doesn't feel weird. So there's a couple of options there. Okay. I think I'm gonna surprise you guys with something I did not prepare you for.
Oh, okay.
But you can handle it.
Shoot.
We've talked about this in the past, so I'm curious to see if your quiver has changed. We all run a lot. We all run in all sorts of different conditions. Even the delicate speedster Alex Sear has set foot on the odd trail from time to time. What is your roster of shoes? We've just created this flow chart here. Let's say we're all doing all of them because we all kind of are. You can pick 2 everyday trainers, 2 different ones that you wear regularly, 1 workout shoe, 1 super shoe, and then throw in a trail and or gravel shoe into the mix as well. Do we need time to prepare for this?
Take it away.
No, I can go. Okay. 2 daily trainers.
Yep.
I go with the Brooks Glycerin 22 and the Nike Vomero 18.
Yep.
Honorable mention to the Asics Nimbus, but I think the 2 first shoes I mentioned are different enough, and I like difference in the 2 daily trainers that I have. Super trainers. I am a big fan of the Nike Pegasus Premium. And I'll go off the map here a little bit, although I did mention this shoe on the podcast, but it's a new shoe and I've warmed up to really quickly. Super trainers, I go with Nike Pegasus Premium and New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel V5, again, because they're so different from each other.
Okay.
That's what I like, difference from each other. And you say 1 super shoe?
1 super shoe.
1 super shoe is still my Puma Faster Nitro Elite 3. That's my guy. And a trail shoe would be I've been for trail runs, I've worn the Hoka Mafate X, and I've actually really liked it. It was massive when I put it on. I was like, I'm gonna roll an ankle, but it's hard enough to just like steamroll over whatever you wear, and it still has like a good amount of spring forward to it. It's been kind of my go-to for runs where I kind of don't know what the footing is going to be, but I know that it's not going to be road. And I'm going to pass on the hybrid shoe. I haven't worn enough hybrid shoes yet. I can't pick one. I can't pick one right now. This just hasn't been in my Rolodex truly.
It's totally fine. We'll do trail or gravel. Okay. Yeah. Katelyn, give us your quiver. What's your roster right now?
Okay. I know I mentioned some of these at the beginning, but for my everyday trainers, I'm with Alex. I'm a Brooks Glycerin girl all the way. I love those shoes. They're so classic, so comfy. And I rotate those out with the Saucony Rides, which I've fallen in love with since we tried those last year. The New Balance Super Trainers, the New Balance, the Super Comp Trainers, that's always going to be in my rotation unless I do something crazy and change them. And I love the Alex mentioned Asics. I love the Nova Blast, but did you say they were a different blast, right? Are these newer shoes?
Oh, there's so many blasts, Katelyn.
Right?
There's so many blasts.
Yeah.
So many blasts. For now, we can do. We know there's the Nova Blast and the Super Blast.
The Super Blast. Okay.
I talked about the Super Blast, which is kind of like it's a workout shoe, but it's also an everything shoe. It's one of the most popular shoes in the world.
Yeah, I ran a bunch of my workouts in the Nova Blast, and maybe even though that wouldn't be, yes, that's definitely a super trainer to run your workouts in. I loved running my workouts in those shoes. I felt them light, comfy. So I would go Asics, Nova Blast, would love to try the newer ones now. And yeah, for trail shoe, the North Face Alta Mesa 500 are my go-to shoe right now. For if I had to choose just one pair, I would take that pair. And no, Alex, I'm letting you choose my super shoe because I don't know what it will be. Go ahead, Alex.
You're getting Big Papa in 2026, the Nike Alpha Fly 3 or whatever's coming out after. You said it, Michael. Nike hasn't come out with an Alpha Fly, an update on the Alpha Fly in a while, and so I'm curious to see what happens in 2026. But I think, Katelyn, your super shoe, because you're used to running in Nike, not that the Vaporflies and the Alpha Flies feel that similar, I think you should go with Nike's fastest racing shoe, which right now is the Alpha Fly 3.
Nice. I'll do it.
Good,
all right,
Michael. Okay.
What about you?
I'm trying not to do overlap here because it's nice to give our audience different recommendations and different options, but I have to go Nike Vomero 18 as my go-to everyday trainer. I actually have 2 pairs in my rotation right now. one that's a little bit more worn than the other. And I can happily report they're taking on lots and lots of mileage and still feel great. So
Nice.
that's good for the resilience of this shoe, because you want a good, durable, everyday trainer. You don't want an everyday trainer that just goes flat on you after like a couple hundred miles. That's so disappointing when that happens. So far so good with that. Vomero 18, Saucony Ride. I like the Saucony Ride too,
Yep.
Caitlin. I've
Great
been running
shoe.
that a lot lately. It's still very overall very soft and comfortable, but there's a little bit of a firm, tactile underfoot feeling, just shades of Pegasus to me that I like. I find sometimes the Pegasus is just too firm and too much ground feel, but the Ride has a little bit more of that. So it's a nice sort of like counterweight to running in the Vomero 18, which is just like so cushiony. Workout shoe, Adidas Boston 13. Alex made the horrible mistake of leaving me with his test pair of the Boston 13s.
I'm not getting them back, am I?
I am a size bigger foot than Alex, but I was like, get my goddamn foot in these things. And
Michael.
they fit fine. And I've been very, very happy with them. The Adidas Boston has historically, talked about it in the pod before, been a very divisive shoe. Most people seem to have hate this shoe for some reason over the years. Each iteration has always been very flawed. This is one of these iterations where they just did a big overhaul of the design of it. It's very different than the previous few iterations of the Boston. And I liked the previous versions. You know, the sort of slight against the Boston was it would take like 200 miles for you to break it in. I liked that. I liked how firm it was. It was like running on a big like block of wood for the longest time.
Oh, it sounds
We're back on the clogs here.
Yeah. And I just liked how it felt like an old school kind of fast shoe. And this is different. The foam is much more finely tuned. There's a little bit of a softness to it, but it's responsive. They've done a nice job with it. It's a great shoe. That's a good workout shoe to me. There's no plate in that shoe, so I think it's a little easier on your foot. I think you can wear it. I've not worn it for a long run, but I think you can wear this shoe for a long run as well.
No plate, but rods. They do have the carbon rods.
They do have rods in there? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more flexible, I find.
Yes,
a typical
it is, definitely.
shoe with a plate. Super shoe. I ain't dead yet, guys. So like I'm not defaulting to the Vaporfly 4, which is a very comfortable super shoe, and I really like it a lot. It's just not quite quick enough. I'm still spoiling myself and going like top shelf. And right now I would probably reach for either the Asics Metaspeed Ray, the Pro Evo 2 by Adidas, which are very comparable shoes in terms of design and technology. Or I think I'd wait out and see what happens with Nike with the Alphafly. I think the Alphafly 3 is still an amazing shoe. It's the shoe I ran in last fall, and I loved it. Pleasantly surprised by how powerful it still felt. And I think the Alphafly 4, I'm very curious to see what happens. I think they do what we're seeing with these other top tier shoes. I think they're going to go super light. I think they're going to do something totally wild with the foam and make it super light, make the top paper thin, and we're going to get this crazy Nike innovation in the next 6 months. There's my prediction. Oh, and trail shoe. This one is a no-brainer for me. Single best trail shoe on the market overall. Best overall shoe, super durable, great in all conditions. I wore it a little bit in the mountains last week. Best grip underfoot. Good looking shoe. Norda 001.
Oh God, I will out myself. I forgot about that shoe when I was thinking that. That's a good shoe. Okay, you can
Canadian.
Yep.
Quebecois brand, Canadian brand. Not sure if they're easily available in the United States right now. Not sure about that. I might be wrong. Somebody told me there's been some challenges with tariffs and stuff, but I might be wrong on that one. If you can get your hands on them, they're very expensive. They're a premium shoe, incredible shoe. The 001 by Norda, great for style everyday trainer. Vibram grip underfoot, best traction in the biz. It's like sticky. It's incredible. All right, guys. There's our current rotations right now. Couple closing thoughts. Some tips. Some obvious ones. Something I hadn't thought of in a long time. You're going to buy a shoe. Go try it on in the store. Obviously, if you can, try it on in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Why that is?
Yeah.
Your feet swell.
Yes.
Good tip.
Yep.
Yeah. Our feet are swelling as we speak, as we record this. So try them on in the afternoon. It'll be, your feet are at their
Fattest.
fattest. Your feet will be at their fattest point. Wear the socks that you're actually going to run in. How many times have you guys gone to a running store or like been like browsing or wandering around a mall or whatever, and you're like, oh, the Nike store, I'm going to go in and try the new Alpha Flies on, and then you've got on like a pair of like wool socks because it's January. Not you, Katelyn, but
no, I've got like those
socks.
super thin no-show socks to go with the Converse that are like paper thin, so then they don't work. It's the opposite problem. So I'm like, wow, am I an 8? I'm not an 8.5. Yeah, big mistake.
That's not the opposite problem. The opposite problem is not wearing any socks. I'm a big slides guy, or flip-flops, depending on which part of the world you're from.
Oh.
And I've walked into shoe stores with no socks very often, and then want to try something on. The weird store, so I just don't. I turn around. Yeah, so like we give these to all the gross people who walked in with
all the other degenerates with no socks on. Oh God!
And so I don't. So yeah, wear socks if you go. Can I throw a tip in there? Here's a tip or something to think about is if you are more like Katelyn and Michael's age, even my age.
Oh my God, that was rough.
You might remember. Don't worry, this isn't bad. You might remember this whole talk about like we got to break the shoes in before running in the shoes. Yeah. I remember this too. Growing up was like that. That's not really a thing anymore.
No.
Foams are much better than they used to be. Shoes are way more made for human feet than they used to be. And so it's kind of fine to race in a new pair of shoes. Now, I don't recommend doing so. It's always better to try the shoes on to make sure you like them. That's kind of the obvious thing. But the whole like, oh, I should probably wear them for 4 or 5 runs before they're perfect. Like, forget about that. That's no longer a thing.
Oh, can I also give a tip? I'd like to add a tip.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and
I would
actually,
like to add a tip.
I would like to add a tip, please. It piggybacks on what Alex is saying about the no break-in thing anymore. And I'm also an advocate for using the shoes once or twice before because you just want to make sure they're not going to give you a weird blister or something. But when you go into the store, they have to feel comfortable when you try them on, and that's just continuing to what Alex is saying. There's no break-in period. So don't think like, oh yeah, they'll feel better in a couple runs. No, if you put on a shoe, and this has happened to me with some of the prettiest shoes, and I said, oh, those are gorgeous. And I put them on and I'm like, yeah, but they're uncomfortable. And so I cannot run in a pair of shoes that I know are going to be uncomfortable. So when you put them on, you have to feel instant comfort. And if you feel instant comfort, you're on the right track. But if you feel something that's a little off, it's probably not the shoe for you.
Yeah, I would say also, if there is a treadmill in the store, don't feel embarrassed. Ask them to run on it. Ask them if you can go run on it. Run on it for more than 5 minutes. Do 10 minutes on it. I mean, you're going to get a little schwitz going, but like, or maybe if you're intentionally shopping for running shoes, like bring or like subtly wear your athleisure wear that day to the shop so that you can get a real feel for like, so you're not running in jeans and afraid to sweat. Get a real feel for like how the shoe feels after, a kilometer, 2 kilometers, at least a mile. Run at least a mile in the shoes before you make a judgment call on them. And then I would say if you're buying online, which is something that, more and more we do, especially if you're looking for something that's a little bit more bespoke, like something like I mentioned before with the Norda. Like the Norda shoe is not a shoe you can just walk into any shoe store and buy. I think you may have to think they might be online only. And if they're not, they're like something you're not going to see very often out in the wild. Really listen to their advice. I know in the case with Norda, they size up one size is what it was. I think it's like, it's a different sizing than, so you have to really read the site to figure out, to make sure they're going to fit your foot properly. And then also don't be afraid. I know it sucks to put all this money on your credit card or whatever, but like order 2 pairs, order the size up and the size, and what is usually true to size for you. Get them both in, try them both on, run around your house in them so you don't wreck them. Make sure you've got the right size, then return the other pair. Check the
Worth it.
obviously the return policy.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good tip. It's annoying to have to return an item, but better safe than sorry. And final tip, we've already sort of talked about this, but in many cases and this is how you know we are objective and we're not in the pocket of the brands. In many cases, last year's model is pretty much the same. So just buy last year's model at a discount, and it's probably going to be a great shoe for you, especially if it's an everyday trainer, especially if it's not version 1 of a shoe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, guys. That's it. I think we've covered how to buy the right running shoe for you in great and exquisite detail. Mr. Sear, when you return to the new world from the old country, what can we anticipate from you?
Well, you can anticipate a lot more German. I learned this phrase.
Okay.
Achtung, ich habe eine Nussallergie. Ach, ich habe eine Pferdallergie.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Warning, this may contain like nuts for do allergies with nuts. And then the other is like wheat.
You're close. Warning, I have a nut allergy.
Oh.
And I also have a horse allergy. And then I said warning again.
You have a horse allergy?
Okay.
That's all. Yeah, I'm allergic to horses. That's all. That's all.
So when you're at a restaurant, you're like, "Excuse me, waiter. The dish I just ordered doesn't have any nuts in it. I have a nut allergy." And they're like, "No, it's good." And you're like, "How about horses? Has it been around
Does
horses?
it have any horse in it?
All of Vienna is around horses. There's so many horse dragged buggies around here. But no, I go to a restaurant and I'm like, ich habe eine Nussallergie. And the waiter's like, all right, that's fine. They all speak English. So
Yeah, of course they speak to you in English. They're like, okay, thanks for letting me know.
yes.
It's like Alex in Paris when his first language is French and they're all speaking to him in English, which is just the ultimate insult.
Oh, the worst. They couldn't get them to speak French to me. My accent was apparently not up to snuff or too weird. Anyway, so I threw this weird and baseless anecdote to stall a little bit because I had to like get myself back into work mode and think about what was coming up. So this was coming up on the channel, especially shoe related. So we have tested the Puma Velocity 4.
Yes.
And I didn't talk about it much on this pod, but not because it doesn't deserve the airtime. It's a good shoe, and I go into detail in this video. It's shot already. It's ready to go. I also had a bit of fun with the Hoka shoe lineup of 2025 because Hoka's a brand that now has a lot of like good and I'd say distinctive shoes on the market in all the categories that we mentioned. And I get a lot of questions about which one might be best for you based on whatever it is that they do. And so I just took the whole lineup out of my closet and went like shoe by shoe and did an explainer of each. And that was kind of fun to do. And for those who are in it for not so much shoe content, I finally got around to recording a kind of a video essay of something that I'm struggling to do, if I'm being honest with both of you. And that is setting a goal for my fall race and a goal that has nothing to do with time. And I think it's valuable to think of it that way. At least it has been for me, given that I've had a few really good seasons, but what happens when you have a few good seasons and you run a lot of personal bests, you start becoming obsessed with time, as I have been, and I have decided to shift my thinking a little bit while still obviously chasing personal bests. So was working on that as well. So those 3 are probably the next 3 to be served up. And when I come back, we're going to do more shoe reviews. I have just received some pretty cool shoes. I will leave it at that.
Nice.
Oh,
let's leave it at
The
a cliffhanger.
teaser.
I want to know what the shoes are.
Yeah. Oh, and also, sorry, the A6 Meta Speed Race. That's also coming up. I'm testing them, and they're crazy and they're awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to that review. Ms. Tocci, you have been busy in the lab as well. You've been busy in the production studio in our Marathon Handbook South facilities.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I have like a list of summer videos to put together, and I'm working on a lot of Coach Katelyn's Corner, it should be called. Coach Katelyn's instructional videos for running. So I just recorded a couple of videos, one on some common running mistakes, one on trying to run longer without dying, trying to run longer without getting completely out of breath. So we got some really fun stuff coming up. And so, yeah, I've been working on those, and hopefully they'll be coming out within the forthcoming weeks.
Excellent. I also have, what do I have going? Oh, our Instagram. So got a whole bunch of shoes we're going to be previewing on our Instagram in the next couple of weeks, including 2 totally new shoes by a major brand that we've been sworn to secrecy because we got the shoes well in advance.
Ooh.
And they don't want us talking about it until they drop. They're a big surprise. Both of them are a big surprise drop. So we'll have that coming soon. When is that? It's like towards the end of August as the embargo ends, I think.
Next week.
Next week.
Nice. Okay.
Next week. So that's coming. Been taking pretty pictures of those this week. Some Mizuno shoes are going to be out. And then the big project for Instagram that we've been working on that will come out, perhaps it'll coincide with this podcast on Thursday, is just a giant roundup of all of our favorite shoes that are out and available right now. Sort of like the best shoes of 2025 so far. That includes anything that's sort of current and available, not the stuff that's forthcoming and not the stuff that's really stale from, say, a year or more ago. So not 2024 stuff, but all 2025 stuff and all the different silos of shoes. So everything from your everyday trainer, your super shoe, your super trainer, trail shoes, gravel shoes, the whole runs the whole gamut. So that'll be fun. Just like basically 20 shoes for you to flip through. And yeah, so subscribe to our newsletter. Goes out every day of the week. 260-ish thousand subscribers now. Put a link in the show notes for that. Email us. We have a new dedicated email address.
Oh, that's
for
right.
the show. You can send us emails. I believe you can also send us a voice note now.
Mm-hmm.
How neat is that? We'll put a link
Amazing.
I'll put the email in the show notes and in the YouTube description as well, which will also have a link to where you can actually like just click on, or when your phone touch on, like where you can go and leave a voice note. And I think you can leave like up to 90 seconds an audio recording. And in the future, when we do mailbag episodes, we will both read the emails and we will also play voice notes from you. So if you have any questions, we want to literally hear from you. You can email us at podcast@marathonhandbook.com. That's podcast@marathonhandbook.com. And we will also respond to you as well personally. I get every single email, and make sure Katelyn and Alex both get it when it's pertinent to them as well. So feel free to reach out to us. We're now doing like basically a quarterly mailbag. So we got like a late summer, early fall one coming up. I think probably in September. We did one earlier this summer already. So please send us your questions, your thoughts, your comments, your criticisms, which crazy things we want to see Alex Sierra attempt next. 100-miler maybe, let's pressure him into doing it. All right, gang.
Maybe over a week.
Clever. Clever move. All right, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
Bye. Happy running.